Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Soss. This is their part number 303CUS19. So it's a 303 hinge is what it is. Okay, the size is a 303. The C means carded. That means the packaging is a card or cardboard. It means that it comes in a clear pack. Carded is how that comes. I can't say that it's always two in a card, but this certainly is. And when you buy one, you're buying one card or one pair of hinges. The US19 is the black finish, and black is a popular finish nowadays. It's the year 2020, midway through 2020 basically, and black has been popular for a couple years. It has continued to increase in popularity to the point where you're getting lots of product in black now. And in fact, you can certainly special order many, if not all, primary components in black. Closers, exit devices, lock sets, hinges, terminal auxiliary hardware. Sometimes it's powder coated, and I think most times it's powder coated in this new crop of available things that are black. There have been manufacturers that have made, one in particular I'm thinking of, that does black and has for decades and never didn't offer black since, probably the early 20th century. But the black that you're seeing nowadays is definitely a powder coat. Powder coating is, I don't powder coat. I'm quite familiar with the process. I don't do it, so I can't speak as an expert. But it's a relatively simple and straightforward process. And I can tell you that it is an extremely durable finish as well. So you're seeing a lot of black come out. Different terms for it in the industry. You're doing a plating like bright black Japan. You're doing a powder coating, which will have a texture to it. Not everything can be powder coated, but most things I'm saying are definitely being powder coated. The trouble that I've seen when they're powder coating is they're adding a thickness of paint to everything, and initially parts don't move very smoothly because they've been powder coated. I had a dust-proof strike late last week that had been powder coated. Well, they just powder coated over the entire top of it, and while you were able to break the spring-loaded dust-proof mechanism away from the faceplate, it did have to be tapped down to get it to move. But certain manufacturers have an exceptional command over the finishing process. And black is a classic finish. I mean, you'll see black show up in very old hardware catalogs. So the fact that it's popular nowadays is no surprise at all. It's a very fundamental color in much of everything. Black is the new oil rub bronze, and oil rub bronze was the new satin nickel, and satin nickel was the new polished brass, and polished brass was the new antique brass, or what's the term I'm looking for? Aged bronze, or not aged, but etched antique brass. Now we're back in the 1970s. So these finishes continue to come through their large arcs. And in fact, nowadays, there is a renaissance in terms of finishes. In the 1990s, you had this many choices. Well, nowadays, you've got lots of choices. 100 years ago, you had 36 choices. And I think the manufacturers did that. Lots of choices to get you in their camp, because a primary manufacturer, and Soss makes hinges, and they make some other things, but they're mostly known for their concealed hinges. And other people make concealed hinges that compete directly with Soss. Someone like Yale, who doesn't make hinges, although a sister company of theirs does, that are concealed. Yale, 120 years ago, gave you 30 finishes. Well, Yale wanted to keep you buying their hardware because you love that particular finish, but you could buy everything from Yale: your window hardware, your door locks, other items, your Esplanol bolts. You could buy window hardware from them. So you could equip an entire house basically from Yale, including your locks, your doorbells, electric doorbells. They have in a catalog from the very late 19th century. But in today's world, where Yale doesn't make that stuff, they make closers, exit devices, lock sets, primarily. You can't get hinges from Yale. You can't get sash locks from Yale. Okay, so in the very early 1940s, in fact, the late 1930s, there was a government-backed standardization, and that's where the U.S. numbers come in. So this would be called US19. There was a document endorsed by the United States government as a result of a coming together of primary players in the finished hardware industry in the late 1920s. I'm forgetting. I think it's the late 1920s, where they said, Yale, Corbin, Sargent, Russwin, Schlage, you make all these different finishes. None of them match each other. I want to buy my hinges from, McKinney, and I want to buy my locks from Yale, and I want to buy some window hardware from Corbin, and I want to order it so all the finishes match. So there was a standardization. So when they say US19, that very clearly tells us that it's a black finish. Every manufacturer who's making a US19 product, it's going to, for all intents purposes, match this. Okay. BSP for black suede powder coat, that's more of a manufacturer-specific term. Your Assa Abloy companies will use black suede powder coat, where you won't order this as black suede powder coat from Soss. So you're seeing a move in the direction opposite of standardization, back to unique finishes. Allegiant has their 643 finish, which is a powder, I believe it's a powder-coated type of Venetian type bronze, that only, or forgive me, it's 643E is what it is, because 643 would have been that etched antique bronze or whatever it was called, a very popular finish in the 1970s. If you had a knob that was very textured and antique bronzy like, that's 643, and they make a modern version of that that's quite powder coated, that sort of thing. So move in the opposite direction. You want black hinges? This is what Soss offers. They call it US19. Now, what is a 303? Well, 303 is representative of this hinge. The dimensional properties of the hinge and what the hinge can handle is all represented by a 303. Okay, the way to understand the different Soss hinges would be to look at their catalog to see all of them, because quickly you realize, okay, the size of the hinge, the part number of the hinge that I need to order is going to be based on how thick my door is and how heavy my door is. So a 303 for this client, if they ordered 303s, I automatically know, well, the door is going to be in this range for thickness and probably so heavy. And when you take those two criteria, thickness and weight, you then look at the Soss line and you're then presented with options. This obviously fits a 303 requirement for this client who, I don't know what they're doing with these. They are a consulting firm. I don't know what they consult on. This could be a personal project for this client. Hard to say. So let's take some basic dimensional properties of this hinge, and then we'll switch to the screen view. Overall height here, about 1.5 inches, maybe just heavy. Overall width, about almost 1/2 inch. The depth from the face of the leaf, about 5/8. What's really cool about these hinges is that vertical axis of pivoting floats through the opening. So imagine when a door swings and it's hung on a hinge, there is a vertical axis of pivoting, a plumb line, that doesn't move at all. But with a Soss hinge, that vertical axis of pivoting actually floats, and it's represented by the head of that rivet that's there. And I'm sorry it's hard to see because these are black, but that will actually float through the opening. Does that really matter to you? Probably not. Should you be mindful that that's how this works? Absolutely, because it may matter to you. You might do a job where you need to know that vertical axis of pivoting is not a stationary, imaginary vertical line. An application of that would be doors with overhead concealed or overhead surface mounted stops, where you place those overhead stops is directly related to a dimension from the vertical axis of pivoting, and if that dimension is not static, you have to adjust for that. In your cabinet work that this client's probably doing, I can't see why it's important. There is something very important with Soss, which we'll get to when it comes to machining these, and a lot of people shy away from Soss because it's too hard, too difficult. Hogwash. It's not at all. Once you understand how simple it is, you'll not shy away from doing them at all. Screws are included. They're always going to come with wood screws. They can do machine screws, but you have to specify those at the time of order. It'll be certainly a special order to get machine screws, but be sure to specify if you need screws for a metal application. Let's switch to the screen view and take a closer look at the supporting documentation. Some of that will be installation instructions, which are included, and this whole document we're going to go over right now. Let's do it. Okay, so here's the item. Here is the item we are looking at. So Soss 303, it's called an invisible hinge. One neat thing about Soss is that it was rumored to have been said by the inventor of Soss that he didn't care how heavy the door was. Keep throwing Soss hinges at it. And you will find when we get to the Nomograph, which is a term that I couldn't define for you, but I know what it means. It's basically a weight and thickness chart from Soss that tells you what hinge to use. You'll see that Soss can handle some pretty epic weights. But back to the machining of this. You know, lots of data here, lots of information, lots of links, a lot of funny dimensions. It's all unnecessarily intimidating. Here's all that you need to know about Soss. Number one, there is this dimension here called the E dimension. If we look at the template, and I don't want to scare you off immediately, the E dimension, there's one cardinal rule with Soss. There's that dimension from the face of the door to the hinge, or the face of the jamb to the hinge, that you cannot exceed. This dimension cannot be greater than 1/8 of an inch. This is, the door is being shown open at, 180 degree. You can't be bigger than 1/8 of an inch. Right here. If you are, it's not going to work. That's all you have to know about Soss. That's it. Prepping for Soss is super easy. All that you do with Soss is you make two preparations. You're going to make a body prep, and you're going to make a plate prep. You're going to prep for this portion of the hinge in one prep, whatever the length, the width, and the depth, and then you're going to make another prep for just the plate or the face plate. Just this. It's all you need to do. And it's game over. What's great about Soss is it's concealed. You don't see it. What's great about Soss is they can handle a lot of weight. They're very elegant in that regard. We've hung on 4 Soss 220s. We hung a 307/16 gauge door that had granite laminated to it. Okay? Granite laminated to it. Not a problem. I'm sure that door is still hanging today. That was in the 1998 maybe, something in that range. So now that I've hopefully dispelled Soss, let's just dive into it. 303 Invisible Hinge for use in wood or metal applications that are 11/16 to 1 inch thick. 303 is made of steel. The cabinet-style hinge will provide superior appearance and durability. Soss's hinges are found in many applications where flush fit, compact size, smooth operation are necessary features. Another thing that I would add to that is that you do not require the ability to adjust the hinge in any of, say, 3 dimensions. Soss hinges are non-adjustable, concealed, or invisible hinges. There are lots of people in the world that make adjustable hinges that are a direct competition to Soss. Soss has said they will never make such a hinge, and I applaud them, and it's because, and when we look at a larger Soss hinge, like a super large one, like the Soss 220. Okay, there's no way to adjust this hinge. This is a very large hinge. The template on this 220 is 5.5 inches tall, so you know you're dealing with a large hinge. Soss's opinion or attitude on this is, listen, machine it according to the template, and you'll never need to adjust anything. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. The issue with that is the people that shy away from a Soss hinge are those that don't have, in my opinion, a command over the carpentry, the finished carpentry, the fine finished carpentry to do the door prep. Door shops as well will shy away from Soss and the ilk because they don't possess the skill set to do it. But again, it's easy, and I'll show you at the end of the video where Soss makes it even easier. So if you mortise it according to the template, you'll never need to adjust this. The fact that these other hinges are adjustable will certainly compensate for a lack of skill. It would be arguable. It would be I would certainly argue that it's nice to be able to move a door within the opening, because the door's not going to change size, but your frame may no longer be square, plumb, true, and level. It might be a parallelogram after a year. So the ability to scooch that door a little bit is advantageous, but I question whether or not the mechanical aspect of how you adjust those hinges is going to prove a viable solution long term, or will it become a maintenance nightmare? I have a carpenter, a fellow who's been in the industry for literally 40 years, who came out of carpentry and now he does purchasing. He's told me he's installed them, and after 10 years, he still has never had a problem with them. I tip my hat to those manufacturers. I remain suspect. 303 Invisible Hinge, black E-coated, minimum material thickness 11/16, maximum is going to be 1 inch, 5 by 3/4 screws. Now they're telling you what size hole to pre-drill. If you have these are number sizes. If you have a set of drill bits that are number sizes, you have far more fine control over what you're drilling. There is no fractional set of drill bits that will give you the really nice increments between numbered sizes. You're going to drill a smaller hole, and the higher the number gets, the smaller the hole gets. If it's softwood, you'll drill a slightly larger hole if it's hardwood, and you can just do a Google search to find out what is the fractional size of a drill of a number 47 drill, not the fractional size but the decimal size. Okay, and you'll see what that is. This is what they're recommending. If you do carpentry, if you do woodworking, if you don't own a drill index now, a wire kind of size, you'll want to order, you want to have that. So let's dive into these cut sheets that are here. Hinge in no particular order. Hinge sizing chart. This is the Nomograph. This is literally called a Nomograph. I don't see that they call it here anywhere, but from the manufacturer's page below this video here, it's going to come up as the Nomograph, Soss usage chart. So this chart is what is going to allow you to understand what size hinge you need to run with based on thickness and weight. Not only the hinge, but it'll tell you how many of that hinge you need. So, if we're going to just using this as an example, if we have a 30-inch wide door and it's going to be about 90 pounds, draw that line up and extend it over. You're going to see that your options are over here, 1 3/4 or 2 inch. So that's really telling you that it's the width and the weight that are important, and then you're relegated to what thickness of door. I had said that backwards earlier. You have to know the width and then the weight, and that will tell you what hinge to use, and it will then restrict you to what door thickness you need. So clearly for this client in the 303 column, they were clearly down here somewhere. So here's our 303. So the client's somewhere down in here, right? A door that's, probably not very wide. Let's say 15 inch, and let's say 15 pounds. So he comes over this way, down, 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 and then shoots across, and then sees, 303 is good for a minimum door thickness of 11/16. Maybe he's got 3/4 inch. That's great. That'll work. And he just selects how many he needs. This client ordered 6. So they may be doing 2 doors, 3 hinges each, which would tell us that they're going to be right in this area somewhere. So something's coming right in here. Now you can read the rest of this to see how it's used, but that is basically how it's used. The next cut sheet for us is going to be the cased jamb detail. Now this document shows you the importance of why you're mortising it the way you're mortising it in terms of not exceeding that E dimension of 1/8 of an inch. If you were to exceed that, you'll find that you won't be able to get the door open, is the bottom line. If the catalog dimension E is exceeded, the door may not open. See appropriate catalog for this dimension, meaning check your hinge. The 303 has a different E dimension than the 214 hinge, etc. The next link is going to be clearance detail. This is a very detailed drawing in terms of what you can do to mitigate the problem when you are restricted to that E dimension, but you have some other stuff going on. So if you had some material applied, you might chamfer it like this to get you like this, to get you like this. Okay? They're showing here where there's nothing, where your E dimension is maintained, but you've mortised right through the face of the door and you've applied material over it. That's fine. Same scenario here. You can see that you're not going to get anywhere past 90 degree with that application. So forth over here. Clearance reduces to approximately a 64th of an inch as door approaches the frame upon opening. Beyond that point, the clearance increases to the maximum clearance when the door reaches its fully open position at 180. And that's because how that vertical axis of pivoting floats through the opening. See your hinge template drawing for that dimension, E dimension. If it's exceeded, you're going to have trouble, is just the bottom line. So this is really handy. If you call Soss and ask them about clearance, they're going to send you this document, and they're going to hope that that answers the questions, I'm sure. Template. Now, we touched on this earlier, and I really gave away the secret on how to prep these. So again, top of the door to the center line of your hinge, or however you're going to do it, maybe the top of the hinge leaf. And you'll notice that this stuff is in 64ths of an inch. You're certainly going to want to be as accurate as possible. So these dashed lines that you see here really represent the body. So you're going to do this body prep. 19-30 seconds by the width, and they're really, I think they're just telling you that it's going to be 1/2 inch wide right here. And then your depth, which is going to be here, 21-30 seconds of an inch. You're going to prep that size hole, those 3 dimensions. Okay? Once you're done with that, you're going to come back and do a 1 33/64 length by 1/2 inch wide by the thickness, which is 0.054. So a very thin face. Once you do that, you're done. If you're going to put dimensions on a frame, be sure to compensate when you're measuring on the door, because there's likely a margin or a gap between the top of the door and the underside of the header of what, or the structure of what you're installing it down to. But that's really all there is to this. A lot of people shy away from these, and in fact, moving on to the last template, a lot of people shy away from these, as I had said earlier. And before we get to this document, the hinge location, a client came in to the store about 6 months ago and said that a Soss hinge failed. And I looked at him and said, I have never heard that in 30 years. And he showed it to me, and indeed, it was bent. The whole hinge was bent to daylights. And I said, this whole half was moved down. All the laminated plates were bent. And I said, what happened? Was someone doing chin-ups on the door? And he said, no. It was a bookcase, and children were sitting on top of the bookcase when it was in the open position. So that's how that hinge broke. So the record stands. Now, hinge location, you'll want to be mindful that what Soss is telling you to do is to install the hinges per this diagram. And I completely agree that this is accurate, because the majority of weight of the door is held by that top hinge. Biasing a hinge towards the top of the door is the smart way to go when you have 3 hinges, and most will have 3 hinges. If you have a door that's incredibly light and you want it to be centered, that's not going to matter. But if you have a door that is hitting certain weights and you want to do it according to the outline of the manufacturer, this is how you do it. If you are manufacturing a door, let's say an 8-foot door. No, forgive me, a 7-foot door that's going to get 3 hinges. You might want to confirm with your wood door manufacturer that this will not violate their warranty, because these top 2 hinges might do so. They might have a problem with that being biased towards the top and not in the center. I've never heard of that, but I have heard of wood door manufacturers denying a warranty claim using a very thin defense. So clarify, that would be my opinion. Get that in writing. If they're going to machine the doors for you, you'll get them to put that on the confirmation that the warranty applies, or if it doesn't, they'll probably specifically tell you this voids the warranty, but I don't think that it will. These are for 1 3/4 or thicker doors, maybe 1 3/8 with your 216, 218, 220 size hinges. Yeah, I know I said a 214 earlier. I meant to say a 212 hinge. There is no 214. So, as a rule, this is what you want to do in terms of how to put those hinges. Bias towards the top, bias towards the top, bias again towards the top. That's where all the weight is being held. Really handy. Now, there is that link back here to the manufacturer's page where we can pull up not only all of the Soss products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation here, but also a link to the website as well as that full product catalog. And a dive into that full product catalog is handy because it will show you the other things that Soss makes. Okay. So very neat to be able to look at this catalog. I'm going to kind of scroll through. Eventually we're going to get to the hinges, and suffice it to say they have several variations of these hinges, not only in size but obviously finish. They will also give you the opportunity to do fire rated doors. They have power transfer versions. They have stainless steel versions of this material. Okay, so that's all lovely. That's all great. Fire rated versions. That's all super awesome. Wood door applications, steel door applications, whatever you like. Metal cabinet applications. Now, it would also be important to know that they make an invisible closer in 3 different sizes, a 216, a 218, and a 220. It's just a spring, but people do buy these occasionally. Now, it's a spring, so there's not really great control over it because it's a spring, but you can make a concealed self-closing door. We talked about clearances and hinge locations, but in the Nomograph, these are barrel hinges for very small, very thin, very elegant applications. Same concept, but no mortising, no 2-step mortising. You're just going to basically drill a hole, and there's a set screw that's inside of here, and it will split this out a little bit, and it'll compression fit. Quadrant hinge, you're probably going to see this on specialty cabinetry. Door stops. Magnetic door stops for baseboard and floor mounting. We sell those with certain frequency. What I was getting to was the fact that, as I said earlier, Soss also makes it easy to prep their material, and that they make templates that you can purchase. These get attached to the door and frame. They don't have one for a 303 though, but they do for most others. You can buy the templates. You can buy the entire assembly. This will allow you to do the work on doors and frames. You'll notice that there are these pins that are here. When you leave those in and you do the center part, you're doing that body part. When you pull those pins out, you're now doing the plate part. Okay, so it's that simple. The only other thing you really need with the Soss template guide system is 2 things. You need the right router bit, and you need the right router guide. So be sure to order the right bit diameter, and the guide itself has to be the right outside diameter so that the math between what the router guide is running along in the template, the diameter of the bit, and the size hole that you want to net or accomplish is all compatible. I had a client call me about a month ago and say, I don't know what's wrong. I ordered the template from you, I ordered the bit from you, I ordered the guide from you. And we were able to quickly determine that Soss, quite unintentionally, sent the client the wrong diameter bit. It was just too small, and it was obvious as soon as the client gave us that information. Steel door reinforcements. If you're doing a hollow metal door and frame, your door manufacturer may just order these from Soss, make their life a little bit easier. Okay, let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, I'm quite partial when it comes to Soss, and it's because I've mortised doors and frames for them. I have done it lots of times, and initially, of course, it's intimidating, but after you learn the ropes and learn what to do and what, more importantly, not to do, it is simple stuff. The hinges are relatively inexpensive, and as I had said earlier, available in lots of different finishes. Suffice it to say, pretty much any finish that you want, you'll be able to get your hands on from Soss. Your brasses, your bronze, your chromes, black, obviously, oil rubbed. They can do some strange finishes as well. I think they can do a stainless. They might even do a gold plated. And I think they may be able to do their hinges in a Type 316 stainless as well. Don't quote me on that. They may be able to if you're doing an exterior application on stainless doors. 316 is a type of, is a much higher caliber of stainless steel, significantly more resistant to rust. Stainless steel will rust. 316 would be marine grade application, so I believe that they'll make that as well with an exceptional lead time. But if you're doing the project that we did 316 Invisible Hinges on was a mass transit job for a country in the Middle East, and they were just building out more of their their train system, their public transportation in the city. Exterior, everything needed to be 316. Wasn't Soss, but I would imagine Soss has an option. So I'm partial to Soss because of the elegance of the product. I do understand it. I'm not intimidated by it, and I hope you're not either. Their people are really good, super awesome in that regard as well, and no reason not to use it. Any questions on the Soss 303 hinge and a US19 or any other Soss product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe as well, and even share the video with someone that you know. And if you have any questions for a future video, please send them our way, and we will make every attempt to oblige. And thank you very much.